Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Juhal Quran Durr. The jewels of the Quran and spares. We have covered the Imam Al-Ghazali's selection from Surah Hud all the way to verse 16. The next verse is verse 61. It is the story of Salih to alayhi salam, who was sent. He was from amongst the people of Thamud. But before that, maybe we just once again mention Hud himself, alayhi salam, where he was sent to Ad. This is verse 50. So again, the selection is verse 61. We'll continue with Shu'aib and Madian all the way to this is 84 to 87. So Hud alayhi salam is verse 50, but the two groups that were mentioned in the previous session, one group is destined to paradise, the other one is to hellfire. A group that is not patient. They are not patient. They could become desperate if they are given wealth, or they become prideful and boastful, except the believers who are patient, who do the good deeds. So these two groups, the Qur'an says in verse 24, the example of these two parties is that of the blind and the deaf. That's one, compared to the seeing and the hearing. مثل الفريقين كالأعمى والأصم والبصير والسميع هل يستويان مثلا أفلا تذكرون. Can the two be equal? Will you not then be mindful? They do have eyes, they do have ears, but they don't listen, they don't hear. This is the problem. In fact, they even when they hear you, they don't want to remember what you say to them. They would like to be distracted. They would like to be bombarded with music, parties, seeking fun, seeking pleasure, buying things, going to the mall time and again without any need, where it becomes an obsession, hoarding things, buying and simply lining up the boxes without opening them. It is the heart that is blind. Then it does mention the story of Nuh alayhi salam, who warns his people, and Nuh, based on the Quranic narrative, he's the one who spent most time with his people, and only few believed in him. They mocked him. They did not want him to have those the meek and the weak and the poor and the destitute to be his followers. And of course, as a prophet, he cannot really dismiss them. O my people who would protect me from Allah, if I were to dismiss them, will you not be mindful? And ultimately, after all the debates and after all these years, they asked him to bring a about the punishment that he threatened them with. He told them that this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's not his business, that's not his decision, that's not his will. But of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring him that, and they will not benefit from his advice, no matter how hard he tried, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had willed. Remember, لَيْسَ عَلَيْكَ هُدَاهُمْ. It seems that the context of this verse is the Abu Talib, the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his uncle Abu Talib, when he was dying, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he wanted him to become Muslim, but it's not up to him. It's not up to him. And it was revealed to Prophet Nuh alayhi salam to know that none of his people, no more believers, except those who already have the handful. And he was commanded to build the ark, that ship. He was guided, and people mocked him because obviously it seemed to be far away from the sea, from the ocean. And ultimately, the divine command came, and the water was everywhere, and in the language of the Qur'an, the oven burst, farat al-nur. But it burst with water, and he was, Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam was commanded to take into the ark a pair of every species, along with his family, those few believers. So, in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he boarded, and it was at this moment that he called his son, and he was in isolation. He asked him to join him, to be on the ark. He stood apart, his son. Ya Bunay, this Ya Bunay of Nuh alayhi salam. Imagine someone who knows what will be the end game, someone who knows what will happen on that day. So Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, the Prophet of Allah, he knew what will happen that day. No one outside the ark will survive. His son was outside the ark. His son rejected, refused, did not listen to his father. Ya Bunay, all the parental care, fatherly relationship with the son, all of it is in that word, Ya Bunay, calling his son. And I would say, try to listen to Islam Subhi reciting the Ya Bunay in the if you could hear that emotion, you could hear that plea, Ya Bunay. And that's in when he recited Surah Luqman, but still, Ya Bunay. Ya Bunay yarkam ma'ana wa la takum ma'al kafirin. Don't be with the disbelievers. And he resorted to a mountain that would protect him from water. He thought that he could. And think about this in abstract terms. People resorting to material and not spiritual, to material causes, to material solutions for everything, and that's it destroys the human being. People are not prepared. People are not educated to fulfill their role as vicegerents on earth. When did we speak with kids with adults, with students, various levels about we do mention the Khilafah, we do read about the Khilafah, the Khala'if, the story of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, the very first story in the Quran. Do we include everyone in that message? What's your response? How do you fulfill your the Khilafah here is not the political office that emerged after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. While politics is part of the Khilafah, but it's not restricted to that office. Because really, that's the beginning of humanity. Politics, economics, social order, aesthetics, art, but not really liberal art in the sense of nudity or obscenity. So his son wanted to resort to a mountain, to material solution. Those who say that there's, of course, they will say no miracles, but there's no hereafter, there's no afterlife, there's no God, there's no creation, which we will, in fact, in 60, but really in a couple of verses after that, in 63, there's an interesting dialogue there. So his son refused. His father told him there is no protection on that day. He replied, his son, I will take refuge on a mountain which will protect me from the water. Noah cried, today no one is protected from Allah's decree except those to whom He shows mercy, those on the ark. And the waves came between them, between father and son, and his son was among the drowned. I thought that this scene, though it is difficult for Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, because he pleaded with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In verse 45, he said, he called out to his Lord, saying, my Lord, certainly my son is of my family, also my family. Your promise is surely true, and you are most just of all judges. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replied, O Noah, he is certainly not of your family. He was entirely of unrighteous conduct. We have two types of families. I have mentioned in the past, especially when people travel overseas to study, if they decide also to live elsewhere outside the Muslim world, in the West, for example. Your family is the people of the mosque. That's your family. And that idea never failed me. I mean, that's one type of family. It's the family that is based on the Islamic bond, if you will, relationship. And then you have the biological family. Okay? And which one is the two children, the two sons of Adam alayhi salam? One of them killed his brother. He did not respect the biological relationship, and he lacked the spiritual state that would prevent him from killing his own brother. إنما المؤمنون أخوة. Verily the believers are brothers. So we have that kind of. So we understand this now, inshallah. So Allah replied to Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, he is certainly not of your family. He was entirely of unrighteous conduct. So do not ask me about what you have no knowledge of. I warn you. so you do not fall into ignorance. Going back to that scene, وحال بينهم الموج. The waves came between them. His son drowned, and his son was among the drowned. فكان من المغرقين. So it was that son was decreed to be amongst those who drowned. But out of mercy to Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, he did not see his son drowning. He knew that he will drown. He knew, but he did not see him actually struggling, trying to remain afloat, to maybe crying out. So that's it. The waves came in between. Wallahu alam. This is still an act of mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam. And this is why, remember that إن الله اصطفى آدم ونوحا وآل إبراهيم وآل عمران العالمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Adam, Noah, the family of Abraham and the family of Imran over all humanity. Adam alayhi salam was the literal beginning. He is our father as humanity, as the human family. Nuh alayhi salam is another beginning. This is exactly after the ark landed on land, and he was blessed. And also some of the descendants of those who were with him were also blessed. قيل يا نوح اهبط بسلام منا وبركات عليك وعلى ممن معك. Okay. So Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam with signals another beginning. So Adam alayhi salam is an individual, Nuh alayhi salam is an individual. Now with the story of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, that's a family. Al Ibrahim. It's not an individual anymore. And that line ends with Al Imran. Then it goes back to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, to Ismail alayhi salam, and out of that it branches until it reaches Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Al Ibrahim. It ends with Jesus Christ. Wallah subhanahu wa ta'ala a'la wa alam. Peace upon him. And Hud alayhi salam also addressed his own people of Ad, and he asked them to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya qawmi abdullah ma lakum ilahan ghayruh. You have no God other than him. And he makes it very clear. He's not asking them for any reward for this message. My reward is only from the one who created me. Will you not then understand? And the notion, which is usually, it is mentioned essentially elsewhere, that the seeking the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is tied, related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showering those who seek forgiveness with rain in abundance, and add strength to your strength. Elsewhere in the Qur'an, I think in Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, استغفر. So يرسل السماء عليكم مدرارا here. يرسل السماء عليكم مدرارا. At any rate. But also it is tied to having offspring. Istighfar is the way out of your condition when you have difficulty. But then ultimately he realized that they will not believe in him, and they thought that it is their gods who influenced him. That they thought that he was إن نقول لا اعتراك بعض آلهتنا بسوء. All we can say is that some of our gods have possessed you with evil. You cannot, and you should not. Even all the horoscopes and all these amulets that are full with literally with sometimes even prepared with by magicians and what have you. Ultimately, when the divine command came again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescued Sayyidina Hud and those who were with him, the believers, and punishment befell his people. And the verse that we are about to read, that Imam was selected, وإلى ثمود أخاهم صالحا قال يا قوم اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره هو أنشأكم من الأرض واستعمركم فيها فاستغفروه ثم توبوا إليه إن ربي قريب مجيب. And to the people of Thamud we sent their brother Saleh. He said, O my people, worship Allah. You have no God other than Him. He is the one who produced you from the earth and settled you on it. So seek His forgiveness and turn to Him in repentance. Surely my Lord is ever near or responsive, of course, to prayer, to supplications. If left without any intervention, the material composition, even when we speak about the earth, the universe was sterile. Remember, quadrillion centigrade. There should be this physics should not have become alive if it were left to its own physical forces. Sterile. And when we talk about sterility, I'm talking about now, we're talking about the atheist. There should be no actor, no will, and everything should remain as is. No life. No animals, no human beings, but no plants, nothing alive. It's a necessity. There's no way that matter will come into life on its own. There is no way it can evolve. There is no possibility of evolution. Quadrillion centigrade. The universe was absolutely sterile. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created the human beings and created all that is in the universe, both animate and inanimate, and settled you on it really واستعمركم فيها. And the intention is to do amarat. It has positive connotations in Arabic. Their response was, his people, they argued, O Saleh, we truly had high hopes in you before this. Meaning that his potential, somewhere I read also about his in تفسير ابن كثير قد كنت فينا مرجوا قبل هذا أي كنا نرجو في عقلك قبل أن تقول ما قلت. They thought that he's smart. From their perspective, of course, he was smart. But prophets did not become prophets because they are smart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses whomever he wills from amongst the angels and human beings as messengers. I do have a story, and we'll end with this story, inshallah, and then we go back to the other selections. There was a writer of originally from a Muslim family from the Horn of Africa. I'm not going to give much details. This was about the person. This was at Bard College, upstate New York. I was present. So there was a lecture. The person who introduced that writer, head of the English literature program at Bard College, upstate New York, originally from Romania, if I remember well. So that writer, who hailed from the Muslim, like, I can't say anything except that he's a Muslim as long as he considers himself a Muslim. Being lazy about certain things, committing sins, that all these do not really nullify his Islam. Remember this, and I hope that people will understand this. At one point in the lecture, he said that, and this is the only thing, Islamic thing that he mentioned about himself. There could be more. He said that when he drives, like long drives, he listens to the Qur'an. That professor, the originator, who said he's originally Romanian, that he heads that the English literature program at Bard College, immediately flipped. He did not even allow the guest lecturer to finish, and he started telling him, but you are secular, how could you listen to the Quran? And this is in front of the audience. And that's exactly قد كنت فينا مرجوا قبل هذا. I think that's exactly what it is. They will not accept even someone listening to the Quran. That's an amazing thing. With this, inshallah, we conclude this session. Until the next one, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.